Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to me. For those of you new here, my name is Donna, and for those of you not new, thank you so much for continuing to come back and support my channel. I appreciate all of you so very much. Today I am doing the next installment in my Palette Roulette series, in which I let an app choose a palette that I use and abuse for the remainder of the week, and then come back to you, show you some pictures, talk to you about how I feel about the palette, and then pick another palette. So today is episode 68, and the palette that we had last week was the Morphe x Jaclyn Hill Ring the Alarm palette. This was one of 4 Vault palettes, and the shades in this one and the other Vault palettes are supposedly the ones that didn't make it into the bigger Morphe Jaclyn Hill Volume 1, I guess you would call it, palette, since she just came out with a new one. These ones are supposedly the shades that didn't make it into the palette. There are 4 different Vault palettes, and they all have different color schemes. This one's color scheme is more warm toned. It's more on the reds and the oranges side. This palette has 4.6 stars at Morphe with 61 reviews on it, and at Ulta it has 4.2 stars with 9 reviews. It is a $16 palette, and it has 0.56 ounces of product, or 16 grams of product, and each of these pans is 0.56 ounces of product. So there are 10 shades in here that are quote unquote dangerously hot shades. I don't know that I'd call them dangerously hot, if I'm being honest with you. They are good. They're decent shades, but I don't know that I'd call them dangerously hot, and we'll get into that. This is what the front of the palette looks like. It just has the Morphe x Jaclyn Hill on it with the ring of like confetti, and as it like bursts out, there are little confetti pieces around it that are red and orange. All of the Vault palettes have this similar like structure to them, and the confetti pieces on the other Vault palettes match whatever color scheme is on the inside of the palette. The back of the eyeshadow palette does look like this. It doesn't have anything on it except for that it says eyeshadow palette, and then it's distributed by Morphe and their address, and then it says made in China. It gives you the total net weight, so the 16 grams, 0.56 ounces, and it says it's got a 12-month shelf life. And then of course it says at Morphe brushes, hashtag Morphe babe. When you open it up, it does have a decent sized mirror. It's not a bad sized mirror. I do like the fact that it doesn't have like die cuts around it, so you actually get full functionality of the little mirror that's in here, and these are the shades in that palette. You can see they are very warm in tone. They are the pinks and reds and oranges that I really like to wear on my eyes. I think that the downfall of this palette for this week was we're just coming off of the Extra Spicy Gingerbread palette, which was the same color scheme. What I will say is there are reasons that I liked this palette better this week. There are reasons why I liked the Extra Spicy Gingerbread palette last week better than I like this one. There are 10 shades in here, and there are 5 of them that are mattes, 4 of them that are shimmers, and one of them, this one here, that is a glitter matte or a satin. I'm not exactly, it performs like a satin on the eye, but they do call it a shimmer matte, I think, on the Morphe website, or glimmering matte, something like that. I can't remember, but it's just got little specks of glitter in it, but it's very much, in my mind, a satin. These shadows are definitely best with a primer. I'm blinding you with this mirror. I found that when I tried to put them onto bare skin, they had a whole lot more problems trying to blend out. They're not the best at blending in the first place, if I have to be honest, but they blend far easier if you use a primer underneath, and not a tacky primer either. One that's just kind of a creamy primer like the Urban Decay All Nighter or not all-nighter. The Urban Decay Primer Potion is a really good one to use. I liked using my MAC paint pot with them, except for that did, I feel like, kind of take the color away from them, just because it was kind of like a yellow tone. So a primer on your eyes that's a creamy primer that doesn't have a whole lot of pigmentation to it is the best bet for these. Don't use a tacky primer. Morphe shadows are horrible with the tacky primer. All of them that I have ever used, to be honest. And Morphe isn't my favorite formulation of shadows, so I'm going to go there. If you guys don't remember, when these Vault palettes first came out, they went to people in PR boxes. They went to people in PR boxes, and then all the people that got the PR were going onto YouTube and talking mad smack about these palettes. So they pulled them. They pulled them all. And then they re-released them like a few weeks later, saying that they were all reformulated and repressed and re-put into these packages. Like, I don't think that that can legit happen. I don't. But who knows? I'm not Jaclyn Hill. I'm not Linda, the owner of Morphe. I'm not those people. I don't own a makeup brand. I have no idea. But I just don't know that that can happen. I know that my little Morphe palette says V5 on it. I think that that was the number for the Vault palettes, if I have to be honest. I know that when the new ones came back out, there was a sticker over the top of the V5 with a different V5 on them. So I'm not sure. I'm not going to dig into that. I'm just going to say when these came out, there was a huge amount of speculation surrounding their formulations for these palettes. These shadows are not spectacular. They don't blend well. They don't stack on top of each other very well. The worst ones in the palette were the two that I could not wait to dig my fingers into, and they were these two like kind of like aubergine, like almost purpley colors. There's just not a whole lot of wow factor to it. This is a hugely underwhelming palette. I would say that the shimmers in this one worked better than the shimmers in the palette that I was using last week that had the same color story. But what I would say is the mattes in this one were more poor than the mattes in the other one. These ones, I don't know, you guys. Like, I really like this eye look that I have going on today. But I don't know if you can see it, but along this line right here where it's this dark aubergine color right here, where it kind of floats into what is supposed to be this like lighter orange shade. It kind of looks like super patchy. So, and I blended the poop out of it. Well, I was blending the poop out of it, like to the extent that my arm is killing me. And granted, my shoulders are killing me anyways these days, but, like, can you see that, you guys? What I will say too is while I was blending away at that crease, it came out of the inner and outer corner of my eye. So I had to go back in and pack it back in there and leave it alone so that it stayed on my eye. And how I feel like it's just kind of like, it looks like I just kind of threw this eye look together, and it didn't. I actually worked so hard on this eye look, and I do know what I'm doing. So there's that too. In addition to that, I do have this color here. It is what is on the center of my eye, but it didn't blend. It didn't blend into the aubergine shade. So I had to go over it with another color. I went back over it with the aubergine, kind of moved it into each other. Then I went over the top of it with actually a ColourPop shadow so that I could build back in that shine, that shininess that I really wanted it to have for that halo effect. I feel like I just had to do way too much work to get this palette to work for me. I did like it. I do like it enough that it will stay in my collection, but honestly, I also ask myself why? Why am I keeping it? I don't know why I'm keeping it. Here's the true tea. I do like the eye looks that I came up with it, which is probably why I want to keep the palette. I do like the eye looks that I came up with. I can scooch over and put some of those eye looks in here for you guys. I feel like it was super pretty, but it did take a whole lot of work for me to work these eye looks into decent eye looks. And I would say the less that you blend this palette, the better off you are. So if you can get away with just packing shadow onto your eye and not really worry about the blendability of it or how it's blended, then I think that you would be perfectly fine with this palette. I have used another one of these palettes. I cannot remember how I felt about it, honestly. And that to me tells me that maybe I should just get rid of them, because if I can't remember how awesome it made me feel or how lackluster it made me feel, then it probably just wasn't a palette for me, and I can't even remember which one it was that I used, if I'm honest. I feel like a lot of these shades are repeated from shades that are in the bigger palette. I also, to speak the same way that I spoke about the Extra Spicy Gingerbread palette last week, I feel like I have these shades over and over and over again in my collection. They're very dupeable and dupeable in better formulations, so I would probably pick them up more. I'm not mad at the palette. I just don't think it's the best one in my collection. I'm gonna hold on to it. I just don't think that it's one that I necessarily need to hold on to, but I'm gonna hold on to it until I do a declutter, and I will decide then. I am gonna go ahead and swatch it for you guys. So we're gonna do the whole top row first. First, we have Lolly, which is a very, very pretty shimmery peachy rose shade. It's kind of duochrome-y. I really love this shade. It was probably my favorite in the palette. Then we have this one here, which is called Rush. It is a matte, like, orange creamsicle shade. Then we have this one, which is called On Camera, and it is a shimmer gold. And that is a true gold. And then we have Boom, which is a shimmer rosy bronze shade, which is also super beautiful. I think that is my second most used color in this palette. It is so, so pretty. And then the last shade in that first row is this one, and it is Alert. It is a matte burnt orange. All right, there is those shades there in that first row. You can see it's just very orange centered, except for that pink and that gold. Very pretty row. I did use every single shade in that top row except for the gold multiple times. I did use the gold once, but if you guys know me, know my channel at all, you know that gold is not my favorite, so you had to have known that I wasn't going to use that gold more than I had to. I also wear silver jewelry a lot, so I feel like if I wear gold in my eye look or in my clothes, that it kind of clashes with the jewelry I have. So the second row, we have this one, which is Bomb Ass. It is on the center of my lid today. Do you see that, you know, vibrant pink right there? It's very subdued in my eye look because I did have to pop on a more creamy shadow on top just to make it look a little bit more shiny. This is supposedly a shimmer deep rose, but I don't know. I kind of feel like it's more of a satin. Then we have this one here, which also is slated as a glimmering matte. I don't even know what that means. I think it's more of a satin plum shadow. It's definitely got a plum tone to it, almost like a raisin color. Then we have this one here, which didn't swatch very well. That is Mugshot. It is a matte, like mustard brown. Then we have this one, which is Secret. It's Framed. And this is a matte deep plum, and that is what is in my eye look on the outer and inner corner today, as well as in the crease. You guys can see how it's swatched. It's just patchy. It's just really patchy. I wanted to love that color. And that one there is Secret, and it is a matte dark brown. You should be able to see that Bomb Ass, it doesn't look that like pink right there. It doesn't look very shimmery, and that Siren is definitely a satin. I think that you can tell that in those swatches, that they both like really perform more like a satin. While I don't mind this palette, there are, not every shade in it is created equally. I think that Siren is a really beautiful, I would say that this color here was probably one of my favorites just because of its deepening effect in an eye look, and it is in my eye look today. I wanted it to be better though. It is a super, super, super patchy shade. This one wasn't a beautiful color. It wasn't a beautiful brown. It really didn't go with a whole lot more in the palette. It was a good like blending shadow. Just lightly like take it on a big fluffy brush and lightly use it to help you blend out a shadow. But other than that, it really didn't, it didn't go with the palette, with the rest of the palette. I didn't like the color of it. And yes, there are some oranges in here, but even this it wasn't enough orange and it wasn't enough brown to pull differently from those other two to not just muddy the look. This was a really great shade, but it was too satin to blend very well. So let me reverse that. It blended well on its own, but as soon as you started putting something over the top of it, it just muddied it up. It didn't blend with others. Well, I guess I should say it didn't play well with others. This is a really pretty shade as well. I love it on its own. It is beautiful, but as soon as you start trying to, you know, put it into an eye look and you start trying to blend it out, it like hard stops on the shadow that's next to it. It doesn't blend into it very well, and that's why I say I think it performs more like a satin than it does a shimmer. It definitely doesn't have a glimmer to it. These two shades here, my favorites in the palette. They were beautiful shadows. This one had kind of that duochrome effect to it, and this one was enough brown yet enough rose that it was just super pretty all over the lid. I did put this all over the lid at one point, and then I think this color over the top of it, and it was just so, so, so pretty. I don't know that I got a picture of that eye look. For some reason, I think I remember it was a long week for me, you guys. I was out of town for work. I was training another person who will do my position only in another area, and I found out, you know, we were up until midnight going over some stuff, and then I found out that my partner, the love of my life, had been taken to the emergency room in an ambulance. So I'm in a completely another city, like 3 hours from home, not knowing what to do with myself, kind of beside myself. So I didn't get as many pictures as I wanted to, but not because I didn't like the eye looks, but more because I was distracted. So I don't think that I got a picture of that eye look. If I did, I will be super ecstatic because it really was beautiful and just basic, but so pretty. This gold I used once. I'm not a fan of gold. I just said that. These oranges were actually quite pretty. I really do like the oranges. This orange right here is actually what is blowing out my crease color in this eye look today. And even though it looks more, I would say more brown than it does orange in the camera, in real life it does look really orange. I really liked this top row. I really didn't like this bottom row. I guess that's my end all speak all for this palette. So I hope I got everything that you guys needed to know in that palette. Sometimes I just don't have a whole lot to say because I am just not as taken away by the palette. There's just not as much to say about the palette as there is other ones. Sometimes I feel like these are super short because of it, but it is what it is. I think I told you it works better if you have a primer underneath it than it doesn't. It doesn't do well on bare skin. There was next to no fallout with this palette, which I have to give it props because typically Morphe shadows fall out all over my face. There was next to no fallout with this palette, and I'm super excited about that because it did have some really darker tones in it that you should do your makeup with, your base makeup, after you do your eye look. And with this palette, I didn't feel like that was necessary. Again, 10 shades, 0.056 ounces per pan, $16. What else can I tell you about it? Probably not much. we're gonna roll into picking a new palette. For those of you who do not know, I have a Samsung Note 9. So we are Android, and I picked a decision wheel app out of our Play Store called the Decide Now app, and this is what it looks like. It is just a Wheel of Fortune type app. When we started this, I did put all of my palettes into it. As we use the palettes, I do take them out. And as I bring new palettes into my collection, I put them in, but only after I've hauled them with you guys, so that there's no surprises here. So in order to pick a new palette, that's my friend JC right there. Do you see her little chat head right there? I'm gonna move her up. Do you see her now? Okay. So as for us to choose a new palette, we just hit the button right there and it spins. And we've got the Smashbox Full Exposure palette. You guys, this is a really old palette in my collection. So let's go grab it. I will be right back. So I can tell you right now, I'm gonna get real bored with this palette real fast. But this is honestly a pretty basic, neutral palette that was one of the very first palettes in my collection. If I'm honest, it is Smashbox Full Exposure. You guys, this is so old. None of the shadows even have colors. This is what the back of the box looks like. It has the shadow names. The top are shimmer, the bottom are matte. I would be willing to bet this will be leaving my collection because, oh my god, this is so old. I cannot imagine it's going to perform very well. What I do love about this palette is it does fold all the way back on itself. I also love the little QR code on the back of this guy, because you can take a picture of that QR code with your phone and it gives you all kinds of looks that you can create with this palette. So just a little bit of a spoiler. I do go out of town this week again. I am going to take this palette with me, but I am also going to take my single shadows with me, or at least a small palette of single shadows with me, so that I have some color to go with this. Y'all know me. I cannot do just this for a week. I would die. I would be so sad. Maybe I'll challenge myself to just do this all week. People will be looking at me like, are you sick? So when I don't wear makeup, when I do a day of no makeup, like sometimes when I go out, if I've got no makeup on my face, I will put like one of these colors into my crease. So I know that this palette is going to perform. I just don't know how well it's going to perform. So there's that. I am excited to come back to you guys next week with my thoughts and opinions on this palette. I did love this palette at one point in time. It is very well loved. There's quite a bit of usage out of this. So I cannot wait to come back to you next week and tell you all about it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that if you did, that you're considering giving it a big thumbs up. I also hope that you'll consider subscribing before you go. Please hit that notification bell if you do, so that you are notified. I almost said uploaded, so that you are notified every single time I upload a video. I do upload content every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and now every other Sunday as well. I have a Simply Sample series that I do. Please hit that notification bell and that subscribe button. I would sure love to have you along for my crazy ride. I hope that March is treating you kindly. What palette are you using this week? I would love to know. Thank you guys again for joining me today, and until next time, bye guys.